From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
I'm striking on March 8th
because I believe women should be free to make the decisions regarding their own bodies.
I'm striking on March 8th.
For equal pay and equal opportunity.
Because women's work makes all other work possible.
And because it's about time we start valuing women's labor.
A day without a woman. To mark International Women's Day, thousands of women are going on a one-day strike here in the United States and countries around the globe. We'll get the latest. Then we'll speak to playwright Eve Ensler about what she calls the predatory mindset of Donald Trump.
How was it possible that a nation of people felt okay with electing a self-confessed sexual assaulter? How is it possible we feel okay with Bannon, who seems to be running the show right now, who is known to have beaten his wife?
We'll also speak with Congolese activist Christine Schuler-Descriver. And then the Bronx-born Puerto Rican musician Alinda Segarra, lead singer of Hooray for the Riff Raff, joins us today to play some of her new music and talk about the role of artists in the age of Trump.
It's really a time to put all these ideas that I always had into practice. And I look to my idols, you know, like I look to Nina Simone, I'll look to Bell Hooks, I look to Sylvia Rivera and Julia de Burgos to give me strength.
All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. WikiLeaks has published what it says is the largest leak of secret CIA documents in history. The thousands of documents, dubbed Vault 7, describe CIA programs and tools that are capable of hacking into both Apple and Android cell phones. By hacking into entire phones, the CIA is then reportedly able to bypass encrypted messenger programs such as Signal, Telegram, and WhatsApp. Although, contrary to many news reports, the documents do not show the CIA has developed tools to hack these encrypted services themselves. The documents also outline a CIA and British intelligence program called Weeping Angel, through which the spy agency can hack into a Samsung smart television and turn it into a surveillance device that records audio conversations even when it appears to be off. Other documents describe ways to hack into Skype, Wi-Fi networks, PDFs, and commercial antivirus programs. The leak also shows the CIA has reportedly looked for ways to hack into cars and trucks, which WikiLeaks said, quote, would permit the CIA to engage in nearly undetectable assassinations, unquote. Other documents outline how the CIA has used the U.S. consulate in Frankfurt, Germany, as a covert base to spy on Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Monday's release totals more than 7,800 web pages and 943 attachments, which WikiLeaks says comes from the CIA Center for Cyber Intelligence in Langley, Virginia. Some of the material was redacted by WikiLeaks to avoid releasing the actual computer code used in the programs. WikiLeaks says Monday's release is only the first batch of many more secret CIA documents. The CIA has refused to comment on the authenticity of the documents, but at least one anonymous government official told the New York Times the documents were real, while another former intelligence officer told the Times the code names used in the documents appeared to be accurate. WikiLeaks did not reveal the source of the leak, but did say the source, quote, wishes to initiate a public debate about the security, creation, use, proliferation, and democratic control of cyber weapons, unquote. On Twitter, Edward Snowden said, quote, the CIA reports show the U.S. government developing vulnerabilities in U.S. products and intentionally keeping the holes open. Reckless beyond words, Snowden tweeted. Tensions are rising between the United States, North Korea, and China, threatening to create the first significant national security crisis of the Trump presidency. This week, the United States began deploying a missile defense system to South Korea, sparking warnings from Chinese officials who say the U.S. is escalating a regional arms race. The U.S. says the deployment of the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, known as THAAD, seeks to protect South Korea amidst a series of recent missile tests launched by North Korea. On Monday, North Korea launched its latest test of 4 ballistic missiles, 3 of which reportedly landed less than 200 miles from Japan's coastline. North Korea says the missiles are seeking to hit U.S. bases in Japan. The deployment of the U.S. missile system is widely opposed by both South Koreans, who've been protesting against U.S. militarization, and by Chinese officials who say the missile system actually aims to counter China's military power in the region, not to contain North Korea. Chinese officials are calling for both an end to North Korea's nuclear program and an end to joint U.S. and South Korean military drills. This is the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi.
As a first step, North Korea should suspend nuclear activity, and the U.S. and South Korea should also suspend large-scale military drills, and with both sides stopping, avoid the current security dilemma and make all sides to return to the negotiating table. Later, based on a dual-track strategy, we will realize denuclearization and establish a peace mechanism on the peninsula to simultaneously and equally resolve the concerns of all parties.
On Tuesday, the U.S. also imposed a $1.19 billion penalty against the Chinese telecommunications company ZTE over allegations it had broken U.S. laws against selling U.S.-made technology to North Korea and Iran. This morning, ZTE said it would plead guilty and pay nearly $900 million to settle the case. In Washington, D.C., divisions erupted within the Republican Party over the GOP plan unveiled Monday to repeal much of the Affordable Care Act, including its expansion of Medicaid. Factions within the Republican Party that had hoped to repeal Obamacare altogether revolted against the bill Monday, calling it Obamacare Light. Conservative groups, including Heritage Action for America and the Koch brothers group Americans for Prosperity, also condemned the bill. If more than a dozen House Republicans refuse to vote for the bill, it could fail to pass the House. Other Republicans spent Monday backing the plan, including Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, who vowed Tuesday, quote, "The nightmare of Obamacare is about to end," unquote. Utah Republican Congressman Jason Chaffetz also tried to defend the bill Tuesday in an interview with Allison Camerata on CNN, but instead sparked controversy.
You know what? Americans have choices, and they've got to make a choice. And so maybe rather than getting that new iPhone that they just love and they want to go spend hundreds of dollars on that, maybe they should invest in their own health care.
On Twitter, people immediately condemned Congressman Chaffetz's comments, including best-selling author Roxane Gay, who wrote, quote, "My broken ankle cost $117,000, so that's around 234 iPhones," unquote. Democratic lawmakers demanded special counsel be appointed to lead any investigation into Russian hacking of the 2016 presidential election during the Senate Judiciary Committee's confirmation hearing for Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein Tuesday. Rosenstein would take over any investigation into the Russian hacking following Attorney General Jeff Sessions' decision to recuse himself. That came after revelations Sessions met with Russia's ambassador to the U.S. while serving as a campaign surrogate for Donald Trump. Minnesota Senator Al Franken has accused Sessions of committing perjury during his confirmation hearing for not revealing these meetings. On Tuesday, California Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein questioned Rosenstein during his confirmation hearing about whether he would appoint special counsel for any investigation into Russian hacking of the election.
Given all of this and the heightened level of distrust on all sides, do you support the appointment of an independent special counsel to look into these matters?
The answer is I'm simply not in a position to answer the question because I don't know the information that they know, the folks who are in the position to make that decision. And when I am in that position, I don't presume that Attorney General Lynch and Acting Deputy Attorney General Bente are correct. I have a lot of respect for them, but if I determine that they're mistaken, then I would overrule them.
Also on Tuesday, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer said President Trump's not substantiated his claims that President Obama tapped his phones during the 2016 election because of separation of powers. This is Spicer being questioned by NBC's Hallie Jackson.
So bottom line, why would the president want Congress to investigate for information he already has?
I think there's a separation of powers aspect here, as I mentioned to Jonathan. That we think it's
about resources and time. Why waste that?
Well, it's not a question of waste it. It's a question of appropriateness.
But if the president has the info, I guess that's what I'm trying to get to. If he's sitting on this information that he found out, he's now directing or asking or recommending that the intelligence committees look into this. And you talked about they have resources and staff, which they do.
Right.
But why expend those resources and staff if the president found out this information and hasn't?
I think there's a difference between directing the Department of Justice, which may be involved in an ongoing investigation, and asking Congress as a separate body.
Separation of powers does not prevent Trump from asking the FBI directly about any potential wiretaps if they exist, nor does it prevent the president from sharing information with Congress. In Dresden, Germany, a trial has begun for 8 people accused of forming a right-wing terrorist group to carry out attacks on refugee homes. Prosecutors say the group carried out at least 5 attacks, including 2 on refugees' homes. A recent report by Germany's Interior Ministry says refugees and migrants in Germany have faced more than 3,500 attacks last year, which injured more than 500 people, including children. Meanwhile, the Hungarian parliament has passed a law allowing for all asylum seekers to be imprisoned and then deported to Serbia. This is Prime Minister Viktor Orbán.
My ladies and gentlemen, the migration crisis will last until the root causes are dealt with. It will last until it is recognized everywhere that migration is the Trojan wooden horse of terrorism.
The United Nations says the law would allow Hungary to imprison all refugees, including children, in border camps made of shipping containers. International human rights groups have condemned Hungary's treatment of refugees. In Lancaster, South Carolina, police are investigating the murder of Harnish Patel, the 4th Indian man to be shot and the 2nd to be killed within the last few weeks here in the United States. The 43-year-old man was shot and killed in front of his own home Thursday after returning home from working at the Speedy Mart convenience store, which he owned. Patel had lived in the United States for 14 years. Local news reports he was married and had 1 child in elementary school. He was shot and killed only 1 day before a sick man, Deep Rai, was shot and wounded outside his home in Kent, Washington, by a man who yelled, "Go back to your country." Both shootings come after Srinivas Kuchabotla was shot and killed by a white man in Kansas who yelled, "Get out of my country," before opening fire on him and his friend Alak Madasani, who was wounded in the attack. A new wave of bomb threats against Jewish community centers swept the U.S. this week, with reported threats against JCCs in New York, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Florida. On Tuesday, a letter signed by all 100 U.S. senators urged Attorney General Jeff Sessions, FBI Director James Comey, and Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly to take action. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio also spoke out against the attacks on Tuesday.
And we know that new threats are coming in literally as of today, directed at other Jewish community institutions around the country, and this is a very troubling reality. This is a moment in time, a moment in history where forces of hate have been unleashed.
In breaking news from Afghanistan, Afghan officials say as many as 30 people have been killed after gunmen stormed the military hospital in Kabul. ISIS has claimed responsibility for the attack. Officials say the gunmen dressed as medics in order to gain access to the hospital. At least 50 people were also wounded in the attack. Women in more than 50 countries are expected to take part in major protests and strikes today for International Women's Day. Here in the United States, thousands of women are staging a one-day strike in what's been dubbed a day without a woman. In Virginia, the entire public school system of Alexandria is closed today after 300 women requested the day off. Some schools are also closing in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and here in New York City. We'll have more on International Women's Day and the day without a woman strike after headlines. And the radical civil rights attorney Lynn Stewart has died at the age of 77 from complications of cancer and a recent series of strokes. A former teacher and librarian, Lynn Stewart was known as a people's lawyer who represented the poor and revolutionaries. Many considered her a political prisoner herself when she was given a 10-year sentence for distributing press releases on behalf of one of her clients, Omar Abdulrahman, an Egyptian cleric known as the Blind Sheikh, who was convicted of conspiring to blow up the United Nations and other New York City landmarks. While held in federal prison for nearly 4 years, Lynn Stewart suffered from stage 4 breast cancer that metastasized. She was given 18 months to live. After months of campaigning, a federal judge ordered her compassionate release. And on New Year's Day 2014, Democracy Now! Was at the airport when Lynn Stewart triumphantly returned to New York with her husband, Ralph Pointer, and was met by her family and friends.
Beyond joy. Beyond joy. I am beyond joy. but not as wonderful as it has come. And Harris suddenly it's like bursting on me, you know? I mean, yesterday at this time, I was deep in the dungeons, and here I am in my beloved New York. It's just wonderful. I can't tell you. Oh, give me those flowers, Peyton.
Lynn Stewart died Tuesday at her home in Brooklyn. You can see more interviews with the late radical lawyer over the years at DemocracyNow.org. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, DemocracyNow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Today is International Women's Day. Thousands of women are staging a one-day strike in what's been dubbed a day without a woman. The impact of the strike is already being felt in the United States. In Virginia, the entire public school system of Alexandria is closed today after 300 women requested the day off. Some schools are also closing in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and here in New York City. The U.S. women's strike was called by organizers of the Women's March on Washington, the largest nationwide day of protest after an inauguration in U.S. history. And women in the United States are not alone. Women in more than 50 countries are expected to take part in their own strikes. The International Women's Strike effort was launched in October 2016 after women in Poland, South Korea, Argentina, and Sweden organized strikes to fight issues from the criminalization of abortion to femicide. In this video released by organizers, people share why they're participating in today's women's strike.
I'm striking on March 8th
because I believe women should be free to make the decisions regarding their own bodies.
I'm striking on March 8th.
For equal pay and equal opportunity.
Because women's work makes all other work possible.
And because it's about time we start valuing women's labor.
I'm striking on March 8th.
Because when I go out, I want to feel free, not brave.
Because women matter.
I'm striking on March 8th because reproductive services are a human right and childbirth is a public service.
Well, for more, we're joined by Titi Bhattacharya. She's Associate Professor of South Asian History at Purdue University. She's one of the national organizers of today's women's strike. Welcome to Democracy Now! Titi, thanks so much for being with us. Can you talk about the scope of this protest and why a strike?
Thank you for having me, Amy. I think the first thing to say about the strike is that it is an international strike. And it was put together by women in, at that time, 30 different countries in October of 2016, actually, who were inspired by mainly the mass actions of the Polish women and the Argentinian women against the abortion ban and against femicide. So 30 feminist organizations got together and called the strike for March 8th of 2017. I think in the U.S., we were really inspired by the January 21st Women's March, but also by the fantastic mass actions of the airport solidarity protests when the first Muslim ban went in. You know, airports, the most soulless spaces of capitalism, were flooded by ordinary people in solidarity against borders and in solidarity with our Muslim sisters and brothers. Both of those said to us that the moment was right to basically put together this mass energy to talk about women's labor, women's rights in the U.S. context. So that's the sort of genesis, I would say, of calling March 8th an international women's strike. The word strike, I think, has raised some questions, and I hope I get a chance to answer fully, because I think the word strike has traditionally meant work stoppage, and it should. But I think the word strike in other countries has had a wider connotation than simply work stoppage. It has been sort of practically applied in the streets in the way Rosa Luxemburg meant it, as a mass strike, so which is not just work stoppage. And I think for us, it was important to emphasize that women do not just work in the paid labor market, in the employment sector, in the formal sectors of the economy. Women also do the unpaid labor, the care work, the picking up of the children from the school, and the countless hours that women put in. So when we say women's strike, it has that expansive understanding of labor and stoppage of labor. So stoppage of labor just does not mean a collective workplace strike. Stoppage of labor also means I will not cook today, and I will stand in solidarity with women in 50 countries as I walk out.
So can you talk about the scope of these actions from New York to Europe to Africa? What is happening?
Well, I think, first of all, the majority of countries that are taking part in the strike are going to have massive mass demonstrations on the street. So places like Port-au-Prince in Haiti, in places like New Delhi, India, in Ireland, where it is very significant because they're striking against for abortion rights and against banning of abortion. So I think women are taking all kinds of mass actions, not just marching on the street, but there have been boycotts of major businesses. There has been demonstrations and walkouts in schools and campuses of college campuses. There has been household strikes, like women have basically refused to do any household chores, for instance, in Poland. So all of this is sort of a festival of the oppressed, kind of diversity of tactics that has been employed. In the United States as well, we now have international women's strike organizing all the way from Alaska to Hawaii. And here, too, the range of actions is wonderfully varied. So as you said, that people in North Carolina and Virginia and New York are striking in the sense schools are closing down, but people also are demonstrating. There are conventions in most of the major universities across. There is in San Francisco, in the Bay Area, they're organizing a gender strike. Sex workers are going to be prominent in that organizing in the Bay Area and in New York. And I think on our website you will see women in Indiana, West Lafayette, Indiana, put together a letter that women can give to their husbands and domestic partners. You can download that letter from our website. Women can give that letter to their partners as they walk out of household duties and go join a demonstration or a mobilization in their own city. And, you know, it is a long, detailed letter, but the essential message of the letter is, honey, you have the dishes, I'm going on strike.
President Trump tweeted this morning, I have tremendous respect for women and the many roles they serve that are vital to the fabric of our society and our economy. Yesterday, the travel ban on refugees from 6 countries was imposed. Within that time yesterday, apparently lights on the Statue of Liberty went out yesterday. Not clear if it was, as some said, the Statue of Liberty protesting in advance today, or whether what actually was happening. And Hawaii, you mentioned, may be the first place where a lawsuit against that ban will be coming from. Your comments on President Trump, Tithi?
Well, I think many people, many women in particular, has called him the misogynist in chief. And I think not just his comments, which he has made in public before the elections and during, justified that. But I also think his policies that he's going to put in place is going to be an instantiation of that title that he has well earned. About the Muslim ban, I think the International Women's Strike has issued a public statement absolutely opposing the Muslim ban and standing in solidarity with all our sisters in the countries, but also elsewhere. But I want to say that the idea of the women's strike is precisely against the ban. It is against borders, and it is about opening the borders in solidarity with the global movement right now.
Your website?
It's womenstrikeus.org.
And finally, we have 10 seconds. What's happening today in New York?
In New York, we are going to be gathering at Washington Square Park at 4 p.m. There's going to be live music. There's going to be people at the rally, and then we're going to be marching all the way to Zuccotti Park. And it's not going to be famous people on the stage. It's going to be ordinary women who make our lives possible on this planet.
Tithi Bhattacharya, we want to thank you so much for being with us. Associate Professor of South Asian History at Purdue University in Indiana, one of the national organizers of today, Women's Strike. This is Democracy Now! When we come back, Eve Ensler joins us. Stay with us.
Now all the politicians, they just squawk their mouths. They said we'll build a wall to keep them out. And all the poets were dying of a silence disease, so it happened quickly and with much ease. Well, you can take my life, but don't take my home. Baby, it's a solid price, comes with my
Rican Beach by Linda Segarra, and you'll be hearing more from her later in the broadcast. This is Democracy Now!, DemocracyNow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. When President Trump signed his first executive order in January to temporarily ban refugees and people from 7 majority Muslim nations, he said it was needed in part to protect women. A little-noticed part of the executive order reads, quote, "The United States should not admit those who engage in acts of bigotry or hatred, including honor killings, other forms of violence against women," unquote. Some observers have noticed the irony in the executive order. Both the man who signed the order, Donald Trump, and the man who drafted the order, his chief strategist, Steve Bannon, have in the past been accused of committing violence against women. During the presidential campaign, Trump famously boasted about sexually assaulting women and grabbing them, quote, by the pussy, unquote, in a leaked video recorded by NBC's Access Hollywood. 8 women have now come forward and accused Donald Trump of sexual assault and harassment. In the 80s, Trump's ex-wife, Ivana, said during a divorce deposition that Donald had raped her. The author, Harry Hurt, described Trump holding back Ivana's arms, pulling out fistfuls of her hair, then forcing her to have sex. Ivana Trump later softened her language to say she felt violated by what happened. Meanwhile, Steve Bannon was charged with domestic violence and battery in 1996. A Santa Monica, California police report said Bannon grabbed his then-wife, Mary Louise Picard, quote, by the throat and arm, and threatened to leave with the couple's twin daughters. Bannon pleaded not guilty to the charges, which were dropped when Picard did not appear in court. Picard claimed in divorce proceedings that Bannon pressured her not to testify. And Trump and Bannon are not alone. Trump's first pick to be Labor Secretary, fast food giant CEO Andrew Puzder, was accused of domestic abuse by his ex-wife, who even went on Oprah in disguise to speak about domestic violence.
The most frightening thing was leaving, because once I made that break and once I made it public, and remember, my ex-husband was a public figure. Everyone knew him and knew what he was doing. And once I made that public, he vowed revenge. He said, "I will see you in the gutter. This will never be over. You will pay for this." I wound up losing everything.
Puzder's ex-wife later withdrew the allegations as part of a 1990 child custody agreement, but the abuse claims and the Oprah video helped lead to Puzder withdrawing his nomination last month. Meanwhile, advocates of domestic abuse victims have expressed alarm over the confirmation of Jeff Sessions as Attorney General. In 2013, he voted against the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act, a law which he will now be responsible for enforcing. Tom Price, the new Secretary of Health and Human Services, also voted against the law's reauthorization. There are also reports the Trump administration may eliminate programs that aim to reduce domestic violence and sexual assault. Well, I recently sat down with 2 pioneers who have spent decades fighting domestic abuse, Eve Ensler, the playwright, author of the Vagina Monologues, and Christine Schuler-Descriver, director of V-Day Congo. I began by asking Eve Ensler to talk about Donald Trump.
Yes, and I think I've been feeling this for over 2 years, that, you know, watching Trump and watching the people Trump surrounds himself with, we are seeing the escalation of rape culture, a predatory mindset in many respects, but I'll particularly address towards women. I think from the very beginning, listening to Trump and listening, how was it possible that a nation of people felt okay with electing a self-confessed sexual assaulter? How is it possible we feel okay with Bannon, who seems to be running the show right now, who is known to have beaten his wife, right? If we look at that as something that's acceptable, right, in a general way, then we understand we haven't really gotten to the root of rape culture in America, right? But I also think that predatory mindset is affecting everything, right? We're gutting regulations on air, on water, on the earth. We're escalating extraction. We're seeing the ransacking of laws, of a disparaging of immigrants, and this is all part of a predatory mindset, which is really about one person in power who does what he wants without the consent, right, of the people around him, which is exactly what rape culture is. You seize people's bodies, you take them against their will, and you do whatever you want to them.
Christine Schuler-Desgraver, you're coming here from the Congo. How much attention is being paid to the Trump administration in Congo, and your thoughts when you come here?
We are really following what's going on in the U.S., and I have to say we are very shocked. First of all, I remember like weeks ago we were talking about what about if Trump was a black president, who had like three wives, the kind of guy that he is. I think things would have been totally different. And today we are talking about the U.S. as it should be a model. But right now it's like Eve just said, it's like a rape culture is back, and we are really worried. And also the impunity, and it will affect all of us. I think this has to change, and when we were talking, we felt like we also have to march in Congo to stop all this.
It's interesting you talking about impunity. The women who've come forward and said that Donald Trump sexually assaulted them, Trump's response, saying they weren't telling the truth, was as soon as the election was over, he would sue them. We haven't heard anything about these suits.
Well, it's the tactic of the perpetrator, right? Like you always make you're the victim, right? You take it, you reverse it. It's a mind game, right? You'll sue the people you've already attacked. It's sort of like
but of
bombing.
Course he hasn't, because that would mean discovery and information.
But it's kind of a mindset too. It's like we bomb Iraqis and we destroy people in the countries around the world, and then we refuse to give them admission and safety. So it's this double thing, right? Not only are you destroying people's lives, but then you're refusing them safety and refuge after you've destroyed them. And that's the same thing as like after I rape you or after I harass you, I sue you, right? That way it takes all the attention off the act that I've done, or even the threat of that, you know? And I also want to say in terms of the Congo, I mean, we'll get into it, but in the course of all these kind of things that he's attempting to deregulate for the benefit of corporations, you know, now there is a leaked memo saying that would free the U.S. companies to buy conflict minerals from Central African warlords, which is something we have been fighting and fighting and fighting to get these regulations on these conflict minerals. And if they're freed again, we will see the escalation of rape in ways that we knew 5 and 10 years ago.
Can you talk more about this, Christine? It's just now we're seeing some reports in The Guardian, The Intercept, about the possibility of Trump signing an executive order that would deregulate conflict minerals.
You know, it brings us like 20 years before, and it really legitimate all the perpetrators, and also the rape. So it will strengthen, you know, like all the dictators we have in Central Africa, because now they will feel free to plunder Congo with all the multinationals, and I think that the violence will escalate much more, and the last 3-4 years, it started, you know, to go down. But now, I think all the dictator will be like so comfortable to continue to plunder the Congo with the international community.
And I think what's connected to that is we know where there is plundering of mines, where multinationals come in and use proxy militias in the same way that the oil companies are using state violence in Standing Rock. We know women are always on the front lines of those struggles, and women suffer sexual violence. I was in the Bakken oil fields, for example, where I was there with, Winona LaDuke.
Of North Dakota. Where the fracked oil will come from that goes through the pipeline if it's ever completed.
And the man camps that were set up there, the rate of sexual violence that had escalated there was mind-blowing. Well, this is the same situation in the Congo. Once these corporations make deals with warlords, right? The warlords are licensed, and the way they get into these villages is the way they get access to these mines is they rape and they destroy women in these communities. They break apart the communities, and then they move in to take the mines. So Trump is not only leashing rape culture in this culture, he is unleashing it in Africa by destroying these conflict mineral protections. And to me, that is very terrifying.
Let's go for a moment to a few clips. I want to go back to what was called the October surprise from last year's presidential campaign. Donald Trump, taking a hit, and several Republican lawmakers distancing themselves from his campaign following the release of this 2005 videotape showing Trump boasting about sexually assaulting women.
She's your girl's hot as in the purple.
Whoa.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes, the Donald has scored.
Whoa.
Oh, my man. Wait, you got to look at me when you get out of your leg.
Sets this up. That is very
You give me the thumbs
Look
up.
at you. You are a piece.
You got to put the thumbs up. You got to get the thumbs up. Can't be too happy.
Somebody else off first? Yeah, let me. It's very fun.
You got to give the thumbs up.
All right, you and I will walk there.
Oh, my God.
Maybe it's a different one.
Better not be the publicist. No, it's her.
Yeah, that's her, with the gold. I better use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. I can do anything.
Look at those legs. All I can see is the legs.
No, it looks good.
Come on, shorty.
Oh, nice legs, huh?
Oof, get out of the way, honey. That's good legs. Go ahead.
It's always good if you don't fall out of the bus. Like Ford, Gerald Ford, remember?
Down below. Pull the hand.
Hello, how are you? Hi.
Trump, how
nice
are
seeing you. Terrific.
Pleasure to meet you.
Terrific. You know Billy Bush?
Hello,
How are you?
nice to see you. How you doing, Ariane?
Doing very well, thank you. Are you ready to be a soap star?
We're ready. Let's go. Make me a soap star.
How about a little hug for the Donald? He just got off the bus.
Would you like a little hug,
Okay,
darling?
absolutely. Melania said this was okay.
So those are the words of the now president of the United States, Donald Trump. The only one who went down over that whole episode, Washington Post releasing the videotape, was Billy Bush, the person who was with him at that time from Entertainment Television. Eve.
Well, to me, it was so alarming to me, having worked all these years, to get an idea of what rape is and what sexual assault is and what it means for women to have agency over their own bodies, and to see not only a president who arrogantly just grabbed women and felt he had access to women, but also to see Republicans and to see so many people around him normalize that so quickly. I mean, that story was in the news for maybe 2 weeks before it was normalized, before it was accepted. Okay, that's just what men do, right? And even the talk of, this is locker room talk. Remember that whole period. Whose locker room? Like, which locker room are you in? Like, I know a lot of men who don't talk that way in locker rooms, but the locker rooms you're in, they're having this kind of... And
it's interesting. I saw a poster. Actually, it was a waitress who carries a towel with her that she wrote on so that she can protest anywhere she wants to. She balls it up and puts it in her bag, and it says, "The world is not your locker room."
Yes, yes. And I think if we look at, okay, let's take the Women's March, which was an unbelievable outpouring of women demanding, speaking up for, and cherishing and knowing what their rights are. What did he do a day later? He destroyed reproductive rights and the support of NGOs who were even offering a discussion about abortion around the world. That was his cynical, violent response to 5 million women and men rising around the world. And that is rape culture. That in itself was an act of rape. It was like, really? You think you're going to have power? You think you're going to stand? Watch what I'm going to do the next day. I feel like so many of these executive, whatever we're calling them, orders, as you said, tweets, you know, moments of dementia, are all these kind of violent acts that are saying, in no uncertain terms, I do what I want, regardless of your needs, regardless of what you want in your body, in your life, and I'm going to continue to do that in any way I want.
And Christine, what does this mean in the Congo when we're talking about issues of rape?
You know, for me, I want to compare it, like, for example, when you talk, it's like they have access to women, you know, as a thing, the way they have access to the earth, to the land. And maybe we also followed in Congo, you know, all the grassroots women who march for the Standing Rock. And I think it's exactly the same in Congo, because the way they rape women, that's the way they rape the earth. Also in Dakota, when we see all the pipelines, you know, like raping the land, and we cannot dissociate that. That's also one of the reasons I think all the grassroots women from all over the world, they have to be leaders. And also to protect Mother Nature, because we cannot dissociate both of them. At City of Joy, for example,
And explain what City of Joy is.
City of Joy, it's a place where we receive 90 young women to heal their bodies and minds, and we train them to be the leaders.
They've all been raped?
Most of them, yes, but they have survivors of gender violence. But most of them, I have to say, they were raped by militias, by the police, by the domestic rape, and they're all survivors of atrocities. And they stay there. It's in Bukavu, in eastern of Democratic Republic of Congo, and they stay there for 6 months. So the program is transform their pain to power, and after some of them they go, because we also have a farm, to transform pain to planting. So they work at the farm. So we also, you know, we live with Mother Nature, and we give back to Mother Nature. For example, they learn how to make compost, and I think City of Joy has to be an example for the whole world, because right now I think the women, like the grassroots women, are the one who paid the most for everything that happened. Look at Dakota, look in Congo, everywhere.
Christine Schuler-Descriver, director of V-Day Congo and the City of Joy, and Eve Ensler, playwright, author of Vagina Monologues. Eve Ensler is heading to Washington right now on the train for a Women Workers Rising protest this afternoon outside the Department of Labor, where hundreds of women plan to surround the building demanding an end to workplace violence. When we come back, Alinda Segura of Hooray for the Riffraff. Stay with us. Performing at the Women's March on Washington, January 21st, the day after the inauguration. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. As we end our International Women's Day special with the musician and activist Alinda Segura, leader of the critically acclaimed band Hooray for the Riffraff. When she was just 17, Alinda left her home in the Bronx and began hopping freight trains. She eventually landed in New Orleans, where she learned to play banjo. Over the past decade, her band, Hooray for the Riff Raff, has become one of the most celebrated bands in modern folk music. In 2014, the publication American Songwriter named her tune, The Body Electric, the Song of the Year. NPR declared the same tune to be the political folk song of 2014. Hooray for the Riff Raff's new record, The Navigator, is out this week. Part of it celebrates Alinda's Puerto Rican heritage. One tune, Palante, is named after a newspaper published by the Young Lords. Another tune, Rican Beach, has been described as an anti-gentrification anthem. Well, Alinda Segarra recently came into our Democracy Now! Studios to perform and talk about her music. I began by asking her to talk about her life journey.
I left home when I was 17, as you said. I was just kind of like a rebellious kid that felt like there was this big world out there for me, and I grew up in the Bronx. I for some reason, just really felt like I didn't belong here, or anywhere for that matter, and I really wanted to just kind of escape and see the country and get to know this America that was very mythical to me. I was listening to some Woody Guthrie. I think he definitely influenced me. And I was doing bad in school. I just decided to risk it and to go out on the road.
Were you already playing music?
No, not really. I was writing a lot of poetry. That's what I was doing. Writing a lot of poetry, going to see a lot of music. I was really involved in the Lower East Side punk scene, and I was a young feminist, So it was when I got to New Orleans when I started playing music, because I started playing music on the street there, busking and just trying to make some money.
How did you pick up the banjo?
Well, I first played the washboard, actually, and the group that I met there was a lot of other young street kids, and somebody actually gifted me a banjo, and I learned in a very communal atmosphere, playing around the campfire and learning a lot of American folk songs, a lot of Appalachian songs and blues songs. So I learned in that way.
Did you really hop trains across the country?
I did, yeah. A lot of hitchhiking and train riding to get around. I was always with a group of kids. We were really just wanting to live on the outskirts of society, basically. We wanted to get in touch with an America that we felt like was hidden. We wanted to be in touch with the land, just live this very radical, romantic life, I guess.
Political songs and music. Are you satisfied with politics being expressed in music, or do you think it's not happening enough?
I think it's just beginning. I felt like for the last couple of years, as the Black Lives Matter movement was growing, I was looking around at least folk singers around me and wondering where our voices were. And now I feel like there is definitely more of a push for us to wake up and to sing what's going on around us. One of my heroes is Nina Simone, and I feel like it's definitely the artist's duty to talk about the times and to, in scary times, to bring these fears that we deal with alone into the public sphere, and that's how we can feel stronger and feel like we can change something,
So can you set the scene for us for Rican Beach?
Well, Rican Beach is a place in my mind, because in the album there is a storyline. There is a character and kind of a play-like story that's going on. And it's following this character, Navita, which is based off of me. And she goes into the future in her own city, and she realizes that she does not recognize anything. Everything has been so gentrified rapidly. And she's looking for her people, her neighborhood, and she ends up at Rican Beach, which is where they all are. And so Rican Beach was used as this, it is a place in my imagination, but it represents what happens when people are pushed out of the city that they, helped create. This city that, they're responsible for the culture and they're responsible for the soul of the city. And it's what happens when you're told, we don't want to see you anymore, you become the other, and you are pushed out. And I thought it was an important theme for right now, because I think it's really easy for people to feel safe and to say, oh, these certain people are being attacked, but I'm safe. But Rican Beach kind of makes it brings it into this personal place, saying, no, they're building a wall around you and all of your neighbors, you know. So that's what it's about.
And tell us some of the models of protest and protecting home that inspired you for Rican Beach.
Well, definitely the water protectors at Standing Rock were very inspirational to me. You know, I was just watching it and reading about it unfold and felt like it lined up so much with the lyrics of the song, to say that these folks were saying, I will put my body on the line, I will be in danger, because that is how much I care about this land. And also it's about protecting the land for future generations. And I think that is a theme in the album and a theme in Rican Beach, saying that I'm going to protect this place because I want my children to have this space, and I want them to be able to thrive in this space.
So this is an album. It's not a Broadway show, but
No.
Some have been talking about the way you tell the story with this figure. Oh, some comparisons to Hamilton. Do you mind that?
Oh, I don't mind it at all. I mean, Lin-Manuel is such an inspiration to me, for sure. I've been a fan of him since In the Heights, because I felt like he was bringing the stories of Latinx people into this very prestigious arena, you know, and I felt like when I never got to see In the Heights, but when I'd hear the songs and watch snippets of it, I felt like, wow, those are my people and my stories that and my neighbors, and we deserve to be represented like that too. So I hope to put it on as a play someday.
Well, I want to go to you singing here in our studio, Rican Beach.
Man built a railroad, man gotta move. Man made a record, put a needle to the groove. Man been up, oh, and man been down. Now man don't want no one around. Well, first they stole our language, then they stole our names, then they stole the things that brought us fame. And they stole our neighbors, and they stole our streets, and they left us to die on Rican Beach. Well, you can take my life, but don't take my home. Baby, it's a solid price, comes with my bones.
That's Rican Beach, Alinda Segarra singing one of the songs on her latest album, The Navigator, which tells your story and your navigation through life.
Yeah, the idea of The Navigator really sparked a lot of concepts for me. You know, it asks questions like, who's driving us as a country? It asks questions like, who's driving you as you go through your journey through life? Is it your ancestors or your intuition? And also just the concept of navigating identities and obstacles through society. I feel like my whole life I was trying to learn, how can I be as free as possible as a young Puerto Rican woman? How can I, you know, divert these obstacles that are in my way?
So, okay, one more treat here, The Navigator.
Today I feel weak, but tomorrow I'll feel a queen. I was raised by the street. Do you know what that really means? All this hurt I've suffered, it just begins again. tomorrow will come, like the turning of the sun over tall buildings and the beating of a drum. It lives in my heart, but buried in the past. Here comes the navigator. She knows you're fading fast.
That's Alinda Segarra. She's the lead singer of Hooray for the Riff Raff, performing in Democracy Now! Studios, The Navigator. And this is the latest album. But talk about, back in 2014, what went into making, to writing, to singing Body Electric?
Well, the Body Electric, at first, I really wanted to kind of respond to the tradition of murder ballads in American folk music. I feel like folk music is a conversation through the ages, and I, as a feminist, wanted to put in my voice and say, this is what it feels like to be a woman and to be in danger, and to be, you know, to be used as a prop, kind of, for a story that ends with, you know, my death. and so this was my response song, but it also, with time, it grew and it turned into a song that was about being dehumanized and also having your own body be used as a weapon against you, being told that violence against you was because you were too you know, sexy, or because of your race, or because of your, you know, your body type. And so I really wanted to just get into that idea of what that's like, to be told that you are the reason for violence against you, you know, when your own body is turned against you.
Let's go to the Body Electric.
Said you're gonna shoot me down, put my body in the river. Shoot me down, put my body in the river, and the whole world sings. Sing it like a song. The whole world sings like there's nothing going wrong. He shot her down, he put her body in the river. He covered her up, but I went to get her, and I said, my girl, what happened to you now? I said, my girl, we gotta stop it somehow.
That's a song you may know, The Body Electric. It is Alinda Segarra, lead singer of Hooray for the Riff Raff. You've always been fiercely political and also personal. Do you feel your music shifting now in the era of Trump?
I feel it's definitely a time to be brave. You know, I feel like when the election happened, I was very afraid, like many people. And I think it's okay to say that I was afraid, you know, because I want us to all share that together. But to be, you know, you have to be afraid at first in order to be brave. It's really a time to put all these ideas that I always had into practice. And I look to my idols, you know, like I look to Nina Simone, I'll look to Bell Hooks, I look to Sylvia Rivera and Julia de Burgos to give me strength and to just continue the work that I've been trying to do.
Alinda Segarra, leader of the band Hooray for the Riff Raff, and 2014 American songwriter, named The Body Electric the Song of the Year. NPR declared it the political folk song of 2014. Alinda's new album, The Navigator, is out this week. Visit our website at DemocracyNow.org to see our full interview with Alinda Segarra's full performance in our studio. And that does it for our show in the special on International Women's Day. Democracy Now! Is produced by Mike Burke, Dina Guzder, Nermeen Sheikh, Carla Wills, Laura Gaddis, Diener, Sam Alkoff, John Hamilton, Robbie Karen, Hani Massoud, Tarina Nadura, Andre Lewis, Renee Feltz, Mike DeFilippo, Miguel Noguera, Paul Huckabee, engineer. Special thanks to Renee Feltz, Becca Staley, Julie Crosby. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us.